What's up, guys? D-Rock1992 here. For this next video and for my next movie review, I am going to be reviewing another Mel Brooks directed comedy. The previous two videos were Blazing Saddles and History of the World Part 1. This next one is right up there with Spaceballs, with Blazing Saddles for me as one of the greatest spoof comedies of all time. One of the greatest comedies of all time. So, this movie is a direct parody, pretty much a direct parody of Star Wars. You know, the original Star Wars trilogy and all that. Pretty much a direct parody of that. This movie is Spaceballs. Spaceballs, like I said, directed by Mel Brooks, and it stars Mel Brooks, Bill Pullman, John Candy, Rick Moranis, Daphne Zuniga, Dick Van Patten, and the voice of the late, great Joan Rivers. So, this movie pretty much closely parodies Star Wars. There's this guy who has to learn, there's this guy who has to rescue a girl, guy rescues a girl, and has a foe, that he faces up against. So yeah, this pretty much follows the Star Wars mantra, the whole Star Wars thing. Bill Pullman plays a guy named Captain Lone Star, who is a direct parody of both Luke Skywalker and Han Solo of the Star Wars movies. Now, John Candy, probably considered one of the greatest comedians, the late great John Candy, by the way. He plays Bartholomew, or Barf for short, the assistant to Captain Lone Star. He's a direct parody of Chewbacca. Daphne Zuniga plays a woman named Princess Vespa. She's a direct parody of Princess Leia. Joan Rivers plays Dot Matrix, the voice of Dot Matrix, the late great Joan Rivers. And Joan Rivers is a direct parody of, I think, C-3PO. The large gold robot in the Star Wars movies. Mel Brooks is a direct parody of the person, I forget the name, he plays President Scrooge, and that's a direct parody of Darth Vader's superior, the Talcon, I believe his name is, in the Star Wars movies, and also Yogurt, a direct parody of Yoda. Rick Moranis plays Lord Darkhelmet, which, of course, is obviously a direct parody of Darth Vader. So, I mean, for those of you who've seen the movie, you know that, for those of you who've seen Spaceballs and also seen the Star Wars movies, these characters portraying each character from the Star Wars movies and all that, you'll know it. I mean, they're pretty easy parodies of the characters and all that. So, some standouts. I mean, Bill Pullman does a really good job as Captain Lone Star in this movie. He is pretty much the main guy in the film. I consider it kind of an ensemble cast, but Bill Pullman is the guy who kind of leads the ship in a way. John Candy does a pretty good job in the film. Daphne Zuniga, I think she does a pretty good job. She's funny. All these characters are funny. Joan Rivers has some moments. Mel Brooks has some great moments too, as two characters in this film, President Scrooge and Yogurt. So Mel Brooks is great in this film as well. But the star of the movie is Rick Moranis as Lord Darkhelmet. The man just Rick Moranis just did an amazing, amazing parody of Darth Vader in this movie. Rick Moranis, for those of you who don't know, he was known for a lot of comedy-type films way back in the 80s and 90s. He was in the Ghostbusters movies. He was in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He's recently been retired. He's been retired for a number of years now. But back then, Rick Moranis was a comedic talent. And he is the standout in this movie for me. And then I see Dom DeLuise is also in this movie. Dom DeLuise is a frequent Mel Brooks collaborator. Dom DeLuise plays Pizza the Hutt, the voice of Pizza the Hutt, a parody of Jabba the Hutt from the Star Wars movies. They parody Aliens in this movie. The movie Aliens, the Alien franchise. I won't say how, but they do parody that franchise, and it's pretty neat anyway. I also have to mention this guy named Michael Winslow. There may be a lot of the younger generation that don't know who this guy is, but Michael Winslow he's a beatboxer, he's a comedian, he is known for all his sound effects. He is the man of 10,000 sound effects. He was billed as that. So this guy's very well known for that. A lot of your older generation may remember him, but yeah, I'd heard about him before. I'd heard some of his sound effects. It's something for sure. I'm talking a lot of critical praise about Spaceballs because, to me, this movie's amazing. I think Spaceballs is funny, it's endearing, it's a wonderful parody of Star Wars. It is so, what can I say about this movie that I haven't already said? The characters are great. The jokes just hit continuously hit. This movie's funny, and it's one of the greatest parody films of all time, in my opinion. It's up there with Blazing Saddles. It's up there with Airplane, one that was done in the 80s. It's big. It is hard to believe, too, that there's a couple people. John Candy has passed on. Joan Rivers passed on a couple of years ago, so it's hard to believe that two of the main cast are gone. But for what they did in the Spaceballs was great. It really was. So I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this movie. It is a fateful parody to Star Wars for sure. And some other movies, the Alien franchise, like I mentioned. A little bit of a parody of that. But, man, it's one of those movies that if I see it on TV, if I see it playing on TV, I will watch it. I will definitely watch the movie. It is so good. So that is it for my review on the movie Spaceballs. D-Rock 1992 out.